Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Alok. We continue in Book 4, the Book of Birth and Quest, Canto 1, the Birth and Childhood of the Flame, and we're on page 356, about halfway down. This at a heavenlier height was shown in her.
So what has been described is the sense of oneness in which she lived. But repeatedly, very beautifully with the masterly stroke, because when we think of oneness, we think of something external. Meet all, have a bonhomie, let's have a party together. But that's not oneness. Spiritual oneness is of a very different kind. It's an identification with the inner spirit. Like the dryad, he has given the example of the dryads. He is identified with the spirit of the plant species. So that is how she, which plant requires what, how much sunlight, what, informs it, governs the whole plant kingdom. So this at a heavenlier height, she is aware of the true law of all beings, not like something external. Repeatedly, this will come again and again. This at a heavenlier height was shown in her. Even when she bent to meet earth's intimacies, her spirit kept the stature of the gods. It stooped but was not lost in matter's reign. This is the great difference. So we also mingle and mix with everything that is earthly, but we lose ourselves. This is what people often ask, that when we are alone, when we are quiet, when we are doing no work, we can remember. But when we are engaged in work, we forget. But here is a being who, even when she is involved, engaged in all the earth's issues, intimacies, one place Mother even speaks of when she is arranging a prayer while arranging different objects. That's how it is. It's not even a prayer, while arranging different objects. And how she is conscious. It's a very different kind of vision and action. That is what we are going to see here. A world translated was her gleaming mind, and marvel mooned bright crowding fantasies, fed with spiritual sustenance of dreams, the ideal goddess in her house of gold. So, dreams are an integral part of human beings. Probably animals don't dream, but this is probably, there have been a lot of studies I have read at one point of time. Do cats dream? Possibly they do, as far as the recordings are concerned, but in all likelihood they don't dream. Most animals don't dream. Human beings dreams. Why? Because in human beings there is an incorrigible something to go beyond. So we not only see dreams at night, but we see dreams during the day. We fantasize. But what are our fantasies? One day I will succeed. I will become this man, that man, president. Presidents, if not president, president's medal. Maybe I'll receive that. It's a great honor. That's not the dreams that they carry. I mean, it's a different dream. Look at the mother. That's what someone, it seems, told the French, the person who is here, consulate. In one of the meetings, he said, "What kind of people are you? You have not even honored the Divine Mother who is born on your soil." All the great saints, saviors have to ultimately, in India they will come and there they will be honored. Otherwise, like Bernard Shaw, was it, who said there was only one Christian, he was crucified. Another was born in Arabia and he was haunted by his own family. This is, isn't it true? It's history. It's nothing. But everything comes to India and there it's uplifted, glorified, and because India is spiritually sensitive. So here is see that she is stooping to earth and yet not losing herself.
But we also have seen in India, or in Pondicherry, that there was antagonism
Yes.
towards the Divine
Yes.
Mother.
Yes. The old stamp of Dandakaranya. That's how I look at it. But she has broad dreams. What kind of dreams she would be dreaming? An average person dreams of these things: material success, ambitions, all these. One day I will be great, one day I'll have more money, one day I'll have a bigger car. But she has broad dreams of a different kind, a new humanity, with a new heart, a new mind, a new life. And
We have seen also in the last 20 years the Tamil people opening up to Mother.
yes. Actually, what happened was all these things which happened, like what is happening today in India, it's a handful. And these handful are the sore points who actually end up creating a feeling as if it's everyone. But the beauty is that it ends up strangely feeding another fire in those who are watching. So some people were telling me that all this is happening. What is the impact? Today morning we were discussing. I said yes. Take the population of Chennai, running in some few 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs. I don't know. So there was a news item. 1,000 people gathered in Chipok Stadium to organize a protest against the NRC and CA. Now, anybody with the slightest common sense would understand this protest is one of the most foolish protests of all.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like a cow is coming to take shelter in your place and the butcher is also running behind, and you say, no, we want to call the butcher also. It's almost like that. It may sound strange, but that's how it is. And this goes with the high ideals of Indian thought that, well, we welcome, it's not just Hindus, Sikhs, all persecuted. It has been the history of India, all the persecuted from Parsis downward who have been given a shelter. Now, the best part is, I said, yes, 1,000 are protesting, but lakhs are watching on television the facade that is going on. And you are ultimately helping these people to organize themselves together in a common aspiration. Ki this is so utterly stupid. So, that's how falsehood exposes itself. And we believe people don't know, but there are a lot of people who can think, who can understand. So, she brings these dreams and implants upon earth. These dreams which will become the molds of the future. The ideal goddess reminds me also of a passage where Sri Aurobindo says, all that you need is that idea. You must think about the idea. Don't let the idea slip away from you. Means, processes, they will develop. And it's the strength of the idea. So she has brought this new idea. That's how she, starts this, what is it called in French? Idée nouvelle, the new idea. And where she brings this new idea. And if you read through those early writings, it's amazing. It's a completely refreshing change from all other ideas that we are accustomed to.
And House of Gold.
House of Gold.
Her body.
Yes, the very body. There is the touch of the supermind. Aware of forms to which our eyes are closed, conscious of nearnesses we cannot feel. The power within her shaped her molding sense in deeper figures than our surface types. So it is a very interesting line where she says, conscious of nearnesses we cannot feel, the power within her shaped her molding sense in deeper figures than our surface types. So what we really see and experience is not the reality. We see a distortion because of our senses. The senses distort reality. It's a very interesting idea to, just look at it. We normally say senses are the evidence. But if you look at from the spiritual perspective, senses distort reality. So there is a sense which is revealing the reality, and it's amazing. I mean, when she looks at the cat, when she looks at a flower, when she looks at a tree, it's with another vision altogether. The spirit of that species appears before her.
We see as in a dark mirror.
Yes, we see as in a darkened and distorted mirror in a dark room to make it worse. We see shadows, phantoms of our own being thrown upon the world, and we consider that to be true and real. So this is the difference. And there is a reason. What was it that created this different sense within her? An invisible sunlight ran within her veins and flooded her brain with heavenly brilliances that woke a wider sight than earth could know. This molding of the sight of audition, the hearing faculty, other faculties takes place from within outwards. It's not like by doing Trataka one develops some capacity for vision. One can do it, but that is still a very, that's not the right, that's forcing some kind of a mold upon yourself. But this is because the sunlight is flowing into the veins, and none of this is an exaggeration. Just imagine. Sri Aurobindo says that all these are true experiences. At one place she speaks, Sri Aurobindo speaks even about the blood in the mother's body. It's of a different kind. And medicines have a different effect upon her body. Very often it is she who has the effect on the medicines, which is going to create a mold for the future. I mean, it's a whole story outlined in the sincerity of that tree. So now here is that light which is from within, revealing, and with sincerity, means there is nothing which is being distorted. Things are just as they are. Her springing childlike thoughts were richly turned into luminous patterns of her soul's deep truth. And from her eyes she cast another look on all around her than man's ignorant view. See, so why do we read all this? Often people say, okay, fine, but tell us, impatient hearts, tell us what we have to do for the yoga. So, this is the future type. So, each avatar, when he comes and impresses that present nature with this new thing which he has brought, and during his lifetime, he impresses that mold upon nature. So, when he withdraws, there are three things which are left. One is the imprint of nature on nature. So nature accepts that imprint. It's like a new mold. So a new type will be created sooner or later. It's an imprint. It cannot go. It's stamp of the divine. It's like Sri Aurobindo's signature. Even sometime when it fades, still it is there. That's an experience which I had once. The second thing that he leaves is an example for humanity to follow. And the third, the human personality of the divine avatar. He leaves it upon her. That's what the mother spoke of, when she said, you will be here till the work is accomplished. The same thing Sri Aurobindo speaks about Krishna. And it's no wonder that many saints and mystics down the line, they could contact Sri Krishna. Because the personality remains, the Buddha. Because the personality, the earthly personality which has been formed will remain. Whatever else may withdraw. And that will be the continue to mold humanity toward the future. So these three things are anyways the gift of the avatar.
And we have to remember now that he's still talking about this little child.
Yes.
This is the birth and childhood of the flame. We're not speaking of Savitri and the Divine Mother yet. This is the child.
She is brought with her. That's how it is. And that is the difference between an avatar and an evolutionary being. All objects wear to her shapes of living selves. So this distinction between animate and inanimate, living and non-living is only a question of limitation in the object and limitations within us, As I said that day that, Theon's wife, Madame Theon, she could command the slippers to come to her. And the slippers would come. The mother didn't do it because, it's laziness. You don't need to do it. She has come for much bigger things. But there is a possibility that matter can obey you. She speaks about the rain. That, it's not something inanimate. According to material science, rain is material phenomena. There is nothing living about rain. But she speaks of to the gods of rain, the being of sun, the being of fire. There are actual prayers addressed to the sun. They keep circulating it when just before 2nd December. Or prayers for the rain. I mean, they are real living beings. We think they are inanimate matter. That link we have lost.
We have so many developments now in, I guess we could even call it spiritual silence. Ingo Swann. Ingo Swann could see the different planets. He could tell you exactly what was happening in a certain galaxy. And now they're beginning to prove everything that he said is correct.
So there are many kinds of, connecting with this earth and this creation and the universe. So we have, that's how you see, if you look at the way Indian thought developed into praying the rain, praying to the sun, praying to the river. It's there already in Indian thought. You see, when Rama has to cross the ocean, so he tries everything, he prays to the ocean, please give way. The ocean is relentless. Then Lakshmana, is preparing a arrow, and that's where he says, Bhaya bin hot na preeti. You are too sweet, my brother, too soft, but this fellow will not, because he is mighty, he is an ocean. Ocean is the birth point of life upon earth. It is that point from where life emerged. So it says, how can I listen? So Lakshman says, okay, I am going to show you why you listen. Then the being appeared. Now, it may look like a strange superstitious story, but there is a way you can connect to the ocean. Even Park Guest House came like that. Because every time they tried to build a wall, it was being washed away. And they asked the mother. Mother said, have you prayed to the sea before taking that land? Then they prayed to the sea and then they built and everything. So you see her touch, how the divine looks. All objects were to her shapes of living selves. Selves, look at it, they were part and portion of her own being. And she perceived a message from her kin in each awakening touch of outward things. So everything communicated to her and she communicated with everything. Each was a symbol power, a vivid flash in the circuit of infinities half known. Nothing was alien or inanimate, nothing without its meaning or its call. For with a greater nature she was one. So this is the greater vision which we don't have because we are blind like Drisht Duman, and we have to not blind like Dumat Sena, and we have to regain that celestial sight. We have lost that sight.
I'll read a little.
Yeah.
As from the soil sprang glory of branch and flower, as from the animal's life rose thinking man, a new epiphany appeared in her, a mind of light, a life of rhythmic force, a body instinct with hidden divinity, prepared an image of the coming God.
So
And when the slow rhyme of the expanding years and the rich murmurous swarm work of the days had honey-packed her sense and filled her limbs, accomplishing the moon orb of her grace, self-guarded in the silence of her strength, her solitary greatness was not less.
So, this is the process of evolution. Evolution is not about how many followers one has. Sri Aurobindo has not come for that. For
He
listing,
didn't want it.
He didn't want it. For celebrities and big people, it has nothing at all to do with, it's an evolution. So, evolution means first the original mold, the avatar comes. Then a few around, then a few here and there, islands of Gnostic life, as he has said in the Life Divine. Slowly, this is going to grow in a very organic, natural way. Actually, it doesn't need any kind of telling, speaking, because it's a different process. Matter has been impressed by this new life. And once it accepts the contagion, it is going to spring up here and there. So he is giving that process. Like animals didn't go about telling to the plant that, look, do you recognize me? Why don't you become like me? It didn't. Nor did human beings go and tell animals that, look, we are what beings. Do you know? On the contrary, they were running away from animals because that time they didn't know who they are. That's why with man came this question, who am I? He must have felt like an abnormal creature in the midst of hardly 3-4 human beings here and there. It's not that immediately, suddenly one human being came and all animal kind became a follower. On the contrary, he was chased. He was speaking about that, attack on the ashram.
Yes.
The first human being is an abnormality. He is chased by the animals and also looked at upon in queer ways. Who is this creature? How can he stand on the two? But over a period of time, very organically, naturally, facing the dangers, facing the difficulties, facing the challenges, not through a scriptural book reading, the animals or the ape evolved into man, and man multiplied so much as he became a master of earthly life as of now. The same process is going to take place. So he describes it beautifully, as from the animals, as from the soil sprang glory of branch and flower, because that possibility was hidden inside. As from the animal's life rose thinking man, a new epiphany appeared in her. But somebody has to bring it first time. Mother speaks even during the human evolution. She describes the first human beings and she says that Sri Aurobindo and myself were there. And she speaks of this first humanity. She says, I remember it distinctly. And then she tries to locate it. She says, this side or that side points more toward Java. Quite likely because, Javanese man. So, and she says that it was a very harmonious humanity because it was just emerging out of the animal. Not mentalized, but with a very thin layer of mind beginning to emerge. And later on, it lost its harmony, and that's what is the biblical fall, because the mind emerged with all its questioning. But that's a passage. So similarly, this is going to emerge. But who brings it? She. A new epiphany. And what is this new epiphany? She has brought a mind of light, a life of rhythmic force, a body instinct with hidden divinity, prepared an image of the coming God. I mean, these 3 lines are worth a mind of light. And there is a whole essay of Sri Aurobindo on a mind of light. And he says, both of them have said, it is indispensable before the supramental creation can take place. So mind of light is a mind which is freed from the cosmic ignorance and makes a straight response to light and truth. And Sri Aurobindo says that even it can be formed under the pressure of the supramental consciousness. It's yet an earthly mind. It has evolved out of the earthly mind but freed from the earthly ignorance. That's the beauty. The body is made of earth, human body, and rest of the being. But this mind is a mind that makes a response to truth. It is not a mind of ignorance which is struggling, groping. You see, the difference is very interesting. One can see this. One reads Sri Aurobindo and the mother's works. Now, a mind of ignorance makes one kind of response. It tries to stretch, tries to understand, tries to grasp. But because it's a mind of ignorance, it tries to fit that teaching into its own little mold. A dogma or a narrow, rigid kind, because that's how it operates. Eventually, by doing it, one day it will be transmuted into a mind of light. But the mind of light makes a straight response. It knows what is the innermost essence of what is being revealed. This is very common with Mother and Sri Aurobindo's teachings.
Mother has named a flower, mind of light acting in matter.
Yes. So that also, she says that it will even begin to mold life and matter. So first the mind of light, which is going to emerge in the process of evolution, but here she is born with it. The mind which makes a straight response. So it's like when somebody sees an event, the mind of ignorance says, where is God? So the mind of light says, here is God. Because it sees exactly the workings of grace. Somebody else would say it is a catastrophe, whereas the mind of light will instinctively know, because it makes a straight response to truth. So, mind of light, a life of rhythmic force. So, right now our life is totally disconnected. We keep on, trying to adjust, accommodate to different. But this is a life which is governed by the Shakti. One may say that it is driven by the Shakti. So, it's a life of rhythmic force. It is force, but not a force which is totally in a state of disorder, disharmony within. And finally he says, a body instinct with hidden divinity. This is a wonderful line. Because our bodies are instinct with animality. Whereas there are bodies which are instinct with hidden divinity. I was reading one very interesting place. Some bodies, how they respond. There are different ways human bodies respond. So Shobinda speaks about the sexual desire. And he says, there are people in whom the body itself doesn't respond. And then he gives example that in some women it is more common. And he gives example of women who can actually have a relationship, a very friendly relation, without really the physical process intervening. Because it's just the body is built like that. Whereas it's not common, it's a rare thing. But he says it has been there. Now what is this body which doesn't respond to what most bodies would respond to? Because human body is built with that kind of animal instinct. If you step upon the toe, you react. You don't, that time you forget equanimity, yoga and all that, you react. But here is a body which is instinct with divinity, and when it is touched, its response is very different. Like that boy, of course, that is the Divine Mother in her, as the mother here. And that boy who is twisting her toes until it becomes blue. And one of the disciples is getting very angry. So one day they say that, why are you allowing this? They can't say anything because the Divine Mother is there. She says, no, don't worry, it is between me and him. What was that boy doing? He was trying to test whether she is divine or not, because his idea is that the divine does not experience pain. So he is inflicting pain. Now, it's a very perverse thing. But look at the body's response. In different conditions, she would respond very differently. The lizard falling on her, right in the center of the chest. Normally, our response will be, even a yogi in meditation will get up and, or maybe just look at it, but, inwardly pacify. And the disciple rushes. And what does she say? She says, I am the mother. No, don't do it. I am the mother. A third example, where body instinct with divinity. When she is going in a car and the door is left open, suddenly from somewhere, a cobra comes and sits on her lap, and the hood held high looking at her. Mother also gazes at the cobra. After a few minutes, she says, okay, now that's enough. Now you can go. And it quietly puts the head down and slithers. So the disciple tells the mother, Mother, you shouldn't do this. These creatures, you can't be doing this to these creatures. Mother laughs and says, see, in fact, the disciple said, you should have killed. Mother said, what? And then she says, I am the mother. How can I do it? Now, this is a body response. This is not something intellectual, or the body is responding in a way that, the cobra also is. She suddenly, God knows, cobra must have had the darshan of the mother, like we have in Ramayana, some of those things, and would have slithered away. This is Mother Parvati's another form where she has come. So, this is how prepared an image of the coming God, which is yet to come.
Yes.
And when the slow rhyme of the expanding years and the rich murmurous swarm work of the days had honey-packed her sense and filled her limbs, accomplishing the moon orb of a grace, self-guarded in the silence of her strength, her solitary greatness was not less. So all things which we receive through the senses, she is receiving. But they are feeding her in ways that we cannot imagine. I mean, divine can be sensuous, but divinely sensuous. Look at the whole language, honey-packed. Nearer the Godhead to the surface press. After a while, this psychic being, in normal humanity also, it presses to the surface. This is the divine's own psychic being, is pressing to the surface. A sun replacing childhood's nebula, sovereign in a blue and lonely sky. So the sun and the nebula, it's very interesting. Nebula, we also use the word nebulous. So it's a tremendous energy which is spinning. Now slowly, after a while, it condenses and crystallizes. That's how we have sun and the stars and the planets. So after a while, this tremendous energy, this Shakti begins to take a more and more distinct form. So a sun replacing the nebula. Upward it rose to grasp the human scene. The strong inhabitant turned to watch her feel. So look, now what a wonderful line this is, that she is rising up. Well, we can only conjure it is Sahasrar, from where she is watching the field. Field is the nature. So she is watching the entire field of her action, this nature on which she has to work. What a mess. I mean, whatever we may curse life, but 100 years back, 130 years back, total mess. Look at all the forces that were governing, from imperialism to Marxist kind of communism to positivism to all. Look at, I mean, in India itself, superstition and women, condition of women. It's unimaginable. And she must have seen all this. And then the work started. It's a slow and steady work. A lovelier light assumed her spirit brow, and sweet and solemn grew her musing gaze. Celestial human, deep, warm, slumberous fires woke in the long fringed glory of her eyes, like altar burnings in a mysteried shrine. So, there are many, you can find lookalikes in human beings. Sometimes even children carry a strong imprint of the parent physically, and if you see the childhood photograph, it's the same. But where the difference lies, even in twins, it lies in the eyes. It's my own observation that no two human eyes are alike. It's something unique. Because it's not just the formation of the eyes invariably carry something from within. So you may absolutely be the same form. You may be a wax statue, very well made, Madame Tussauds. But the degree of light, the fire, that which the eyes carries are different. So here her eyes and the student arts, the brow, all this, the thinking mind, the seat of the thinking mind and will, all these are being formed by that light and that fire, slumberous fire which is waking up. Out of those crystal windows, eyes are being described. Out of those crystal windows gleamed a will that brought a large significance to life. And Mother speaks of this crystal windows when she describes sincerity. So, she has defined it in several ways. But one place is amazing description. She says, my child, what is sincerity? It is transparency. So when I look into your eyes, I go deep down, down, down. Some people offer no resistance. That is called transparency. But there are others whom I encounter a black cloud and then there is like an iron which doesn't allow you to go. She can press through it, but it may be disastrous. So look at it through the eyes. Actually, even when people lie, some children, you can see it in the eyes. If you carefully gaze, you'll see that they are trying to. And there is an actual expression in Hindi, I'm sure it must be in English also. Nazar churana. Nazar kab churate hain? Because you know where you can be caught. It's not chor ki daadi mein tinka. It's actually through the eyes you can catch. So the expression means that you try to hide away your eyes when you have to hide something, untruth. The eyes can reveal it. So her eyes are crystal light. And I've even seen body language when people speak to you. If they are avoiding your eyes, just be careful. It doesn't matter what they are speaking. Eyes are, of course, some human beings have learned the eyes, art of looking into the eyes and speaking untruth, white lies as it is called. Holding her forehead's candid stainless face behind the student arch in noble power of wisdom, looked from light on transient things, a scout of victory in a vigil tower, her aspiration called high destiny down, a silent warrior paced in her city of strength, inviolate, guarding truth's diamond throne. So at once the Brahma Tej and the Shastra Tej, the knowledge and the power. So this is the center of will and vision, knowledge and will. So Sri Aurobindo is describing both these aspects. They are fully developed. This center is so beautifully open. So first he describes climbing here from where he is seeing. See, he is describing the whole center. So this is where knowledge and will they reside. So what is the knowledge? Which is crystal, like crystal windows. It's seeing everything of wisdom looked from light on transient things. This is how our knowledge is operating. What about the will? A scout of victory in a vigil tower. Her aspiration called high destiny down. So she is born with that. A nectarous, haloed moon, her passionate heart. So moon is always a spiritual mind. Now this spiritual mind is in its fullness, which is also not just a moon, but it is haloed moon. So it is spreading its effulgence and its radiance. So look at the beautiful symbol, like Shiva with the moon, but here she is with the full orb, a nectarous, haloed moon. That's why moon is also in Vedas the god of Ananda. So as we rise in the higher spiritual consciousness, there is delight. So he is the god of Soma. So Sri Aurobindo in one line is revealing a nectarous, haloed moon. This is not the spiritual mind is not dry as dust. That's an academic philosophical mind. But the spiritual mind is full of that joy, that ecstasy, that sweetness. It brings that. It is dripping with that. A nectarous, haloed moon, her passionate heart, loved all and spoke no word and made no sign. This is wonderful.
Yes.
Again, we go back to that oneness.
Yes.
Loved all, but it's not that you have to say. Very often, if you have to say very often that, I love you, that means, you're not, either you are not sure of me or you're trying to fool. Where there is love, you don't need it. Look at it. This deep love she embodies, there doesn't have to be necessarily a gesture or sign. As such, she is a child. I mean, nothing wrong. Later on, Mother and Sri Aurobindo say that the vital must come in when it comes to love, because it is a power of expression, but it must be in a purified state. But here, she is born with that love. She doesn't have to say. And yet she is in love with everything around, that love within her. But kept her bosom's rapturous secrecy. Why? Because love gives ananda. So where there is lack of joy, there is lack of love. Deficiency of vitamin L is the cause of deficiency of vitamin B. B is A, B, everything they have taken away. Delight. So if joy is missing, J, then love is deficient. So one needs to love. Maybe just a plant around, maybe an animal, something. Yeah, please.
A nectarous, haloed moon, her passionate heart loved all, and spoke no word, and made no sign, but kept her bosom's rapturous secrecy, a blissful, ardent, moved, and voiceless world. Proud, swift, and joyful ran the wave of life within her, like a stream in paradise.
Yeah, just a few moments is very interesting. A blissful, ardent, moved, and voiceless world. Proud, swift, and joyful ran the wave of life within her like a stream in paradise. Now, often we'll read about some mystics and their childhood. They'll say, they looked upon life and they're filled with sorrow, and their mystic, I'm not going to name. And people had the audacity to compare him with Sri Aurobindo. And he says he was depressed for the first 30 years of his life. What kind of consciousness would be depressed? Whatever enlightenment you may have. But here is a divine being who is full of joy of life. We don't have to be depressed and suffering and, find. That's why she later on says, you don't have to. In fact, if one is seeking respite in the divine because the world is so bad, we are not ready for this yoga. When everything is good, wonderful, happy, and yet it is limited and you are looking for something still greater, then one is ready for this yoga. And that's what, see, as a child, she's a happy child. Whatever may be happening in her outer life, whether she had to, color she had those lacquered shoes. And there was a point of time when her father lost a lot of money, almost everything. They were on the brink. So she found a novel way. She was wearing these lacquered shoes and she couldn't, change it because they were getting, discolored and all that. So she would start painting them differently at different times. And they were like new shoes. Every few months she would paint them differently. Same pair of shoes. So this is how, happy. So, yes, please.
Many high gods dwelt in one beautiful home. Yet was her nature's orb a perfect whole, harmonious like a chant with many tones, immense and various like a universe.
So here again we see many high gods dwelt in one beautiful home. But look at the next word. Yet was her nature's orb a perfect whole, harmonious like a chant with many tones, immense and various like a universe. So it's not easy to hold all these gods. Imagine God of mercy and the God of justice. If they dwell together in one house, what is going to happen? They will fight. God of wisdom and the God of sweetness and love. So this is because below the overmind, their action is not together in oneness. But in the supermind, they are all harmoniously together. That is how it made it, yet her nature was a perfect orb. So that's what perfection is, where all these great gods, they arrive in harmonious functioning.
The body that held this greatness seemed almost an image made of heaven's transparent
Wow.
light. Its charm recalled things seen in visions ours. A golden bridge spanning a fairy flood, a moon-touched palm tree single by a lake, companion of the wide and glimmering peace, a murmur as of leaves in paradise, moving when feet of the immortals pass, a fiery halo over sleeping hills, a strange and starry head alone in night.
Such a marvelous description, even of the very. He's summing up now the entire thing that it's a perfect orb. All the great gods are dwelling together. She is vast as the universe, her consciousness, and the experience you were describing of climbing Mother rising high. The body that held this greatness seemed almost an image made of heaven's transparent light. It's like with great difficulty it has managed to form into this crude matter. Its charm recalled things seen in visions ours. A golden bridge spanning a fairy flood, a moon-touched palm tree single by a lake. And we know what exquisite beauty this is. Companion of the wide and glimmering peace, a murmur as of leaves in paradise. So paradise also has autumn and leaves falling on the ground. And when the gods and the Gandharvas tread, there is a murmur which must be very musical and soft, which that's how her being is. Moving when feet of the immortals pass, a fiery halo over sleeping hills, a strange and starry head alone in night. Must have alarmed the night.